Good morning, everyone. I don't know what the couch rules are, but she told me that if I was talking, she got to sit on the couch. So got cherry blossom there. So I guess a little bit about who I am. I'm Ron Foster. I'm a senior security consultant for HP's Fortify division. I've been breaking stuff for a good 15 years. So it's pretty cool to have a career where you just break stuff, and seeing lots of trends and changes over the time. And we're going to talk today about test-driven development, because over the years I've seen a great shift in software development methodologies, how we're developing software today, and that affects how we test software. So I guess one of the first questions I have is, a statement, and then a question is, why security? So, most of us here this is a HackerCon, so we understand why security is here, but in case there's someone who doesn't, we really have two drivers for security. One is money, and second is money. So that's pretty much our drivers in security. The first driver, when we talk about money, is, data is worth money. So people, we talk about all the hacks that have happened recently. Chase was the biggest, I think, recent one in the past couple of weeks. And, that's a lot of data to change hands and to use to create fake accounts, et cetera, and that's worth a lot of money to people. So second one is compliance, because we have a whole industry designed to make money around compliance. So compliance pays the bills. I'm really kind of a libertarian in thought, so it's kind of a two-edged sword for me. I'm like, government bad, but yay government, because you fund my job. So it's kind of what it is there. But those are really our driving forces of security. It's just always about money, whether it's compliance, which is why we have jobs, or the other side of it. So businesses face a lot of problems right now. I don't know about you guys, but it just seems like if you're in the security field, we're all just stupidly overworked. There's just not enough of us. There's tons of work out there, and businesses are always trying to find new ways to make you do more, and with way less. And not only do more, way less, but on top of it, basically, I hate to say this, but fudge the numbers. If we're talking about compliance, I just want to check a box. What do we got to do to check this box and move on, so we have some type of coverage? And that's kind of what I want to address today, especially looking at the trend in what I'm going to call RAD, or Rapid Application Development Methodologies. So one of the big problems businesses face is this rise of rapid application development methodologies and frameworks. How many people here actually work with devs or in development shops? So we have a few. Second here, adjust my... So, my background is I used to work for Sun Microsystems back in the day. I'm a real long, old-school Unix nerd. And then I went from there to be a Mercury consultant. So that began my career of breaking things, more on the performance side of things, but really your life is living inside of a proxy. That's what you do every day. You just have an API attached to a proxy, so whether you're breaking stuff over WinSock or you're breaking stuff over straight HTTP, you're still just breaking stuff. That's really kind of what you're going for there. Mercury was bought by HP. HP also bought a company called Spot Dynamics, which was your WebInspect product. If you've ever heard of that, it's a big enterprise scanner. You got two real big ones out there. You got IBM AppScan and WebInspect Enterprise. And then they also bought Fortify, which is a static code analysis tool, if you've ever worked in a big enterprise thing. So that's kind of where I live. It's always big enterprise stuff. So this may not apply to everybody, but really the focus is, I'm like a single guy shop, or there's like two or three of us. We have all these business lines. How do we freaking get all this crap done? And that's really what this talks about. So when you look at my slides are just not cooperating with me. Here we go. Let's try this again. Okay, so I breezed through all these. So I didn't talk about increasing number of sophistication attacks. We talked about the Chase thing, but we have seen so many things. I remember over Christmas last year, my bank calls me and goes, yeah, you shopped at Target. We've just cut you a new card. We just want to let you know that, because, some guy planted a great little piece of software in their POS system, and it actually captured traffic or data before it even went to memory to be encrypted. Brilliant software, as a matter of fact. I was like, dude, I love this. This is great stuff. But dang it, I got to go change all my crap again for all my billing. So, and that tends to happen a lot. That's why, whether you like Apple Pay or not, I think I'm a fan of it, because I'm tired of changing credit cards all the time. But anyway, like a security testing tab, we talked about that. So doing less with more. So how many people know what Agile is? A couple? So let me explain what Agile is. A few years ago, I came up with something I called the birdhouse methodology. Really, when we talk about people building software, it's really about, I have some idea for something that's never been built before, and I want to build it. So let's say this wonderful thing is a birdhouse. No one's ever built a birdhouse before. We're going to make trillions of dollars building birdhouses. So I'm going to describe something known as a waterfall methodology. And a waterfall methodology on building a birdhouse is simply this. First thing we do is we get together and we say, you know what, we need a birdhouse. Second thing we do is we have requirements on the birdhouse. We talk about what kind of bird's going to live in this house, what's the size of the bird, what are its habits, things of that nature, so we can figure out how we need to build this birdhouse. The second thing we do is we begin building basic designs around the birdhouse. Then we build the birdhouse. Then we functionally test the birdhouse. We make sure the bird can get through the hole, and that happens a lot, in the software world. We realize, hey, that we built this house and the bird can't even get through the hole, or the bird can get through the hole, and by the time the security guys get to it, we found out that squirrels and everything else can get through the hole and kill the bird, so we've bought security and making it okay for the bird to get through. So this is kind of the way the birdhouse model works, and like I said, we have performance testing, where we basically rain on the birdhouse, we heat the birdhouse, we put it in the oven and bake it, we make sure it can take the rigors of the world, then we have the security guys who come through, and we're the squirrels. We get in there, we eat all the birds, we're like, yeah, you guys screwed up. So, but that's what we call the waterfall methodology. Then we have Agile, and I really don't want to rip on Agile, but I'm going to be ripping on Agile as we go through this presentation. Really what Agile is we want to build our birdhouse, we have 0 requirements, we're going to do it as we go. So Agile focuses on little features, just the hole, just the roof, just the walls. And they say they can do this quicker, but really, in my honest opinion, and working in Agile shops, all you're doing is making your customers your testers. That's really what it ends up being. So Agile is a framework. There are lots of methodologies within the framework. We have Scrum, which is probably the one you hear the most about if you are in the Agile world. You also have extreme programming. You have unified process. You have FDD, or feature-driven development. And they all focus on these little cycles, and they usually are a week to 2 weeks, and they call them sprints. So you have a week or 2 weeks, and basically what you're doing is, if you were a waterfall shop and it took you 8 weeks to do something, you still have to do 8 weeks worth of work in 1 to 2 weeks. Nothing changes. So it's really awesome. I love Agile. So, but Waterfall does focus on much longer development cycles with a singular goal of saying, these are the requirements, did you meet the requirements? So what you're seeing now is you're seeing something that some people call Scratch-a-fall. So they try to combine the two, and it really doesn't work at all. It's really a big mess. A friend of mine, a mentor, I'm a real big fan of mentors. I believe that we are all the product of the people who have mentored us, and it's our job to give back. That's really the way it works. And his name's Brian Copeland, and he's one of the original guys that coined, are you agile or are you fragile? And he has a fantastic paper on it, and he has like the top 12 ways to know if you're fragile or if you're agile. And I have a few of them here, but they're just fantastic. You can find his stuff over at a company called Northway. He was with them. Now he's somewhere else. I have no idea where he is anymore, but he's a great guy. But when we looked at RAD, or any rapid application development methodology, which Agile is one, they're going to focus on something called component testing because they've built those individual components. And the problem with security people is we test applications. We do assessments. We do pen tests. How many people here know the difference between an assessment and a pen test? Who wants to volunteer and tell me what an assessment is? Nobody? Awesome. So that's great. So I want to define it then. So an assessment is basically, I want to find every area of your application that's possibly vulnerable. I want to find, are you possibly vulnerable to SQL injection? Are you vulnerable to XSS? Can we do DOM XSS? Can we do stored or dynamic XSS? I mean, what are all the areas of the apps that I can break? Whereas a pen test is, I want to get in and exploit you. That's really where we're focusing. Yes.
Typically, an assessment would also be an automated process. So yes, I'm looking at a broader, I'm trying to enumerate all the ways in, right? But I'm just enumerating them. I'm not actually going to execute them.
Correct. I'm not going to exploit them.
We can use a tool to do so.
Yeah, I'm not going to exploit them. Whereas, at least at Fortify with HP, we do, if you're, one of the real differences, I think us and the other people that are out there, not to plug HP, but is we do have, it's not just kicking off a scanner. We have a real person sitting in Burp, sitting in Zap or whatever, and in that proxy actually making sure these are legit real vulns. Yeah, we're going to go through, if it's SQL injection, we're going to pull a table name, but we're not going to pull, the 100 rows of data out of here. Yeah, we got your table name. We know it's legit. We're not here to exploit all your data. So that's kind of as far as we go. But looking at the pen test, yeah, I want all your data. I want all your data because I want to walk in your seat in your CISO's office and be like, yeah, I got it. I know what your salary is. I got it all. So, it's really good stuff. So those are really two big differences. And the reason I bring that up is because the focus here is going to be on assessments. So we keep hearing terms nowadays, if you follow any type of Twitter or any type of Slashdot or anything, things like test-driven development or iterative testing, these types of words or methodologies. So with these things and with low amount of staff, the challenge is how do we get this done? So I'm going to say something which is heresy to a lot of security people, but we do this by leveraging the QA people. We make them our little slaves. That's what we do. We say, okay, QA people, we know you're overworked and you're already slaves to every department that's out there, but now we're gonna pimp you out as well. So it's gonna be good stuff. And also, a lot of times as security folks, QA, performance, those are always built out before they ever think about security. The only time they think about security is if we were breached or we found out we weren't in compliance and now we owe someone a lot of money. So it's always generally a reactive scenario within companies. It's not proactive. But once they are reactive a few times and their pocketbook is heavily lightened, they're like, dude, we got to find somebody and fix this crap because this is costing me way too much money. So the QA people usually have a defect tracking system in place also. It's been there a long time, so we're going to leverage that as well. Third big point in all this is return on investment. Being that they've never had these security folks before, now we got to prove we're worth what we say we're worth because usually we're not cheap. And which is a good thing for us, but companies are always trying to do less with more. So they're going to try to find ways to not give us money, and that's their job to do so. So we have to prove we're worth all this money and we're worth all the tools and everything that we say we need. So in leveraging QA, we're going to talk about test case-driven security. QA generally has a model, and I'm going to talk about a mature model. Very few times have I seen this implemented in a mature QA shop because they can't get past certain things. Or when they get it set up, they'll get a new CIO and he'll screw everything up and ruin everything. So, and that's generally the cycle that works within companies. You get things working and someone comes in, he's the new boss, and he messes everything up and you start from scratch. At least that's been my experience with stuff. But anyway, when you look at test-driven security testing and how I'm going to model this, QA people work like this. We have a developer and they're building stuff. When they're building stuff, they're building defects. That's part of their job, which is a good thing because it gives the QA people a job. For every 4 QA testers that are building manual test efforts, you should have one person that does nothing but we call automation. There are free tools out there, such as a tool called Selenium. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Selenium, but if you're in the hacker space, you've probably used Selenium yourself to do some enumeration or to build some automation around certain tasks. It's a really cool free tool. But it's mainly designed for automating functional test cases. Security people, one of the things that we don't like to hear is generally what we are, we're just functional testers. That's really what we're really technical, boundary, and functional testers. We're QA people. We just don't ever call me that because I'll punch you in the face. But that's really what we are. So we want to talk to the other QA people, and we want to say, okay, you've got all these tools, and you have an automation person. So you're automating these test cases because you want to do something called a regression test. A regression test is we've built new software, so we're going to run these tests to make sure you didn't break the old stuff. We want to make sure the old stuff still works before we push out this new stuff. But this is where the cool part comes in. The gentleman earlier just mentioned automated scanning. This is a big part of the world in the enterprise security space. With automated scanning, you're going to use a tool such as if you have lots of money, which a lot of companies do, you're going to have a tool like HP's Web Inspect, or you're going to have an IBM App Scan, or you're going to have a big iron tool like that to leverage all of your security scanning. Personally, if you're cheap and you have no money, you could probably get by with a tool like Burp. Burp has a really good scanner in it. It's $300 for a license. If you're a hacker and you don't have a full license version of Burp, man, you should get one because it's a really fantastic tool. And, it's only a proxy. That's really all it is. It's an intercepting proxy. So what we can do is we can basically cheat with the QA people. We can say, okay, you have these QA tools. You're building test cases for these iterative cycles of development. Why don't you just run your test cases through a proxy. So we configure a burp, we configure a zap, we configure a whatever type of tool. I'll move through some of this here. We configure a zap or a burp or a web inspect, whatever, which all are intercepting proxies as well. And we say, you know what, as traffic's passing through you, scan that traffic. So the QA people are doing nothing but pointing their tools at a proxy. When they're done doing that, they've ran all their tests for this sprint or this cycle. The security folks can come in and pick that up, and we have all the low-hanging fruit from a scanning perspective done. Only thing we have to do is analyze the traffic. It is a huge boon for us because, this is not our end-to-end testing, but this is, for this cycle, we at least have scanning done to some degree. And it's a pretty huge thing. So once these are done, we can actually enter these issues we have found into the defect tracking system for QA. This is kind of a huge thing, and I don't know if this is an hour talk. I'm running through this pretty quick, but as we enter these issues into the defect tracking system, which QA has set up generally, we can assign a security type. We can say this is a type of defect known as security. Management hates to hear the word security. Every company I've ever consulted with from security, if you go in and show, I remember one company, it was great. I don't know what this person's doing, but I had this lovely child here who's doing something into the microphone. But, back then I took her photo and I wanted to demonstrate to a company I was going with a cross-site scripting attack. And I basically used a combination of clickjacking and cross-site scripting to overlay her photos at every part of the form fill pages in the application in the client. So, it was great. You went to the CISO's office and they launched the page and it's all pictures of my daughter and they're like, well, how much will this cost me to fix? I'll write you a check today. Well, what do we need? And so you show them the risk and they come up with money, which is a good thing because money talks. But when we look at this, when we enter these issues into the defect tracking system, these security types, that rings money to management. So this also gets us something cool. It gets us at a place at the table because when we have these issues found from a standard defect or QA tracking session, they're going to have these meetings periodically called defect review boards. Now you have a place at the table. So now they're seeing the security guy, which usually, the gentleman mentioned earlier about how, the dungeons of the Knox, Well, let's just be honest. We like it pretty dark too. I mean, I know most security guys. My wife gets so mad at me. She comes down to my office area and she's like, "You always have it so dark down here. I don't understand." The rest of the house, you complain that it has to be lit up, but when you work, it's a cave. I'm like, it's a zone you have to get in. I don't know. I can't explain it to you. I'm sorry. So that's just kind of the way it works. But when we look at these issues, when we get that place at the table and review these issues with the rest of the business, we get major visibility to the business. So when the time comes also for us to start talking about money, this gives us some other issues as well. Now, when we talk about defect tracking systems, there are a couple of different ones, that are used in the enterprise. The two big ones are HP has one called ALM or Quality Center. IBM has one called ClearQuest. A lot of your big iron tools will work with both these systems. But in the Agile world, Jira is a popular one. We have Mantis. We have a lot of these types of defect tracking systems. They all will do the same things. Now, one of the cool things about the HP system is our automated tools that create the test cases can be imported into our scanning tools, and you just push the button. So those test cases will actually run as a scan. So that's kind of a neat thing. But it costs a lot of money. So, and I know most businesses don't want to spend a lot of money. So once again, proxy the tool through a burp, we get the same result. So it's really the same end result, and we enter those issues into the system. Part of the result of sitting at the defect tracking review and the whole ROI scenario is, there's two types of budgeting things. I don't know if you've ever worked in the enterprise, but there's a capital expenditure and an operational expenditure, and those teams have separated out. Capital is, what I'm spending this year for new stuff, new tools, new people. Operations is what I have to spend to keep the business going. So when you start to head a department or lead a department or getting to the management scenario, you have to prove why you need money. Well, if I walk up and say, over this year, we've entered all these issues into the defect tracking system, and I print a single report saying, show me everything that says security, and I slap that on the table, I go, this is all the security issues we found from basic scanning. This has nothing to do with any of our verbose pen testing. We also need to show that as well to show that we have the true value, the nitty-gritty stuff. But all the low-hanging fruit, this is what we found. This is all in the system. It has auditing trails. If you're using HP system or IBM system, for example, I know both of those have CVS plugins. So not only do I know when this issue was found, I know also who it was assigned to fix it, which dev had to fix the code. And with the CVS plugins, I also know what lines of code they actually edited to fix the issue. You get a lot of pushback for systems like that because devs don't like to be called out when they when they write bad code, and secondly, if they fix it and it's not fixed. They think, hey, my job's on the line. We like to say that they need more training, but after so much training, we don't need them anymore. And that's kind of the fear in a lot of the world. Another big thing about Agile is a big thing of it's us. We're a group. We're in this together. Until something gets screwed up, then it's their fault. And that's kind of the way Agile works a lot of the times. And that's just humanity. We like to protect ourselves. But when we get back to the ROI numbers, when we put those numbers on the table, we can prove we need more money for people, we need more money for tools, we need more money for everything. So this is just my solution. I'm not saying it's the solution, but as I'm seeing a lot of businesses really struggle with trying to get this testing done, we're still going to do our end-to-end application scans. We're still going to do our massive pen test of the application once a quarter or however you have your cycle set up, and we're going to prove our value by actually going in and pivoting off some table and passing the hash all over the network and having some fun and just totally destroying everything. But, from a basic scanning standpoint, this is going to get you very far, especially if you have a limited staff and you have multiple business lines. And I think that's about all I have for this one. This is probably a 30-minute talk, not an hour talk, so we're probably going to have some time left over here. And I did take that picture of the spider, so I'm a big fan of wolf spiders. I think they're really cool. Maybe it just means I'm deranged and sick. I don't know, but I think they got that little video going around of the wolf spider with the actual babies on its back and these guys crying like girls, when they see it and stuff. So that's the egg sac, and those will hatch and those will crawl up onto her back and they'll live on her back for a few weeks. So I think they're really cool animals, and that was taken right here in Tennessee. So, but I'm Ron. Do we have any questions? My daughter, what's your question?
Since you're only doing a 30-minute talk, can I finish this thinking?
I think we're good. I think we're good.
She wants the other 30.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. Probably a Minecraft talk, but well, folks, we have a lot of time left over then, and I guess we can use that to get coffee or whatever other method you need to energize yourself. So.
Thank you.